How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another 6 Tips at 6, almost 6:30 here on the Endless Entrepreneur YouTube channel. Not guest, but my partner here, 10K on the Bay, Chris, is joining me, and we have a really cool, interesting topic to talk about. It's kind of been trending and is a new feature for a lot of clothing sellers and just other unique SKU sellers on eBay. But before that, I'm just going to kick it off to Chris to give a little intro and background on himself for those of you new to the channel.
What's up, guys? My name is Chris. I have a YouTube channel called 10K on the Bay where I'm trying to reach 10,000 live listings on eBay. Luke and I have been running the Sunday show for a couple months now, going over 6 ideas. Today's a little bit different because I haven't done any promoted listings yet. So we are going to live. I'm going to start from 0, and then Luke's going to give his 3 tips as we do it live. So a little bit different format today, but I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome show. And for those of you new to my channel, I'm a part-time eBay seller, and I specialize in mainly men's clothing and do a little bit of women's and shoes. And I've been kind of expanding that knowledge, and I work full-time as a corporate finance analyst. So we do this show weekly, and we alternate channels. So if you want to watch any previous episodes, definitely check out Chris's channel, 10K on the Bay on YouTube, and you'll see the episodes ping-pong back and forth. We also, moving forward, are going to start reposting them on both of our channels so that people can see the full string of the shows if they want to rewatch them at any point in time. So in any case, let's jump right into it. Let's make sure our sound is good. We will do Q&A at the end. Looks like we're all set there. We'll do Q&A answers. Hold your questions. We do get to pretty much all of them. We'll dedicate a half hour at the end of the show. So Chris is going to share his screen, and we're going to actually set up a promoted listings campaign and walk through it so that you guys can hopefully learn from that. And then we're going to just kind of toss around how it works. So it is all
right,
you, Chris.
I just want to make sure you can see my screen. Can you see it, Luke?
I can see it. You look good to go to me.
All right, so this is my low-key Husky account, the one I share on YouTube. So where do we start?
All right, so first you're going to go to your marketing tab, and it's going to be tough because every time I talk, it takes away from your screen. I'm pretty sure, unless there's a way to lock it, which I'm not sure.
I think it's locked on my screen.
Is it locked on your screen? Okay. Hopefully.
Yeah, so we're going to go to...
You're going to go to promoted listings.
Promoted listings, okay.
And you're going to start your first campaign.
All right. Should I just do the whole thing?
Actually, I know. I think it's ping-ponging video right now. I want to see in the chat before we keep going. Can anyone let us know? Is it locked on Chris's screen? I don't want to go too far and lose the content. Is it locked on Chris's screen, or does it keep ping-ponging back and forth when we talk, guys? Just let us know in the chat.
This is an interesting question because I have never done a screen share not as the host.
Yeah, that's
so
I'm a little worried about that.
Well, we'll see in the chat if you guys can see if it's locked.
It's not locked on the screen. I should be able to lock it.
Oh, all
right. Let me see.
I should be able to lock it.
Control room.
Interesting.
Let me see if I can lock this, guys. Hold on.
Oh, it's ping-ponging.
Yeah, I'm going to share controls with you, Chris, and let's see if your cameraman. Let's see.
I think I stopped it. No.
Yep, I think you're good. I think it's staying on you.
I think it's not ping-ponging at this point.
All right, I think we're good. I'm checking the chat here. Are we good? Are we good now? Is it locked? I think that we figured it out.
This is our first show. Stay patient with us.
Yeah, we've never actually shared the screen on a group show before. That's kind of funny. We've done so many of these shows. Locked. We're good to go. All right. Pass the test.
Okay.
All right. So we went to promoted listings.
You want to do one example of both?
So I haven't done the bulk one. My understanding and experience with it is the bulk is really only for when you have an absurd amount of listings.
All right, let's try individual.
You may want to do bulk for some of your bigger categories.
Okay.
But I don't know if you have enough items in the store.
Let's take a look. Select listings. eBay categories.
Yep.
I have 505 in clothing. Should I try that?
Yeah. Did you pick bulk?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's do clothing. So then, since over the 500 limit. So yeah, bulk's really, if you like, I had to use it for some of my clothing stuff because I had too many shirts as a category. But all right. So he's going to start a campaign. Go ahead. Continue.
So we've collected listings based on.
Sorry, I lied. I'm pretty sure you have to do this with a spreadsheet. So go back to the other 500 at a time. I have not
Okay.
loaded this, and I'm not really sure how to do it actually.
Oh wait, no, you can choose. You can help me select or upload it in a CSV file.
Okay, try that.
What if we click all? Does it not? Let's see what happens when you click continue. So
Bear with us. We are, and I'm going to explain what promoted listings are for people. They're asking in the chat right now. So promoted listings simply is eBay has created a feature where you can select individual items and they will bump them up basically in the promoted section of eBay, and based on a percentage that you agree to pay eBay if the item sells. And so basically you're agreeing to increase your final value fees by X% in exchange for promoted focused marketing from eBay. So you're basically paying for more visibility of your items, but you only pay it if the item sells. This is interesting.
So do you choose your ad rate on the items?
I don't know. I've never done a bulk load like this before. The other way is really like plug and play if you don't do bulk.
I see. So let me go back.
I think we should
so if
probably
we
table.
don't,
I think we should do the other one only because
okay,
I don't want to
let's
break your
do
store right
individual.
now. So
This is cool, guys. So if you're gonna do the select listings in bulk, it looks like you upload a CSV file with what percentage discount you want on each individual item. If you select individually, we can do up to 500.
yeah, and I would say that for the large majority of our viewers, that they're probably going to want to do this version. So doing just selecting them on your own, not doing the bulk. So what I've done, do you want to do it for a specific category, like a subcategory, Chris?
Do all of them, the test.
All right. So he's gonna do it for the whole thing. So he selected all his items.
500. Yep.
Yep. And so he clicked that check
and
mark
then,
in the upper left-hand corner, and that grabbed all of them. So that's the quickest way to do that, guys. Also, you want to display the max amount of values. How many are you displaying right now? You must be displaying 500.
500. So if you go scroll to the bottom, guys, you can select how many listings you want to show between 25 and 500. It's probably a better way to toggle. But right. Down here, 500, 150, or 25. So I've selected 500, and now I'm going to click go to the next screen. We have your ad rate is the percentage.
So see that sliding bar at the top, Chris? So for everyone watching. So if you slide that bar at the top, it applies it to every single one in your campaign. So right now, basically Chris, as is, he's agreeing to pay an additional 5% in final value fees for every item that sells within this campaign if it's through promoted listings. So this is a key distinction that everyone needs to understand. If you sell the item and it was organic, it wasn't through the promoted listings effort and the marketing, you don't owe them that 5%. You only owe it if it actually was purchased through the promoted listings, like basically where they display that to the buyers. So
interesting. Right. I just clicked apply. Is that to set it at?
So Chris,
at whatever it happens.
So Chris picked applied trending rates, and so what that did is it applied a rate by category that his items in that's trending for all of eBay. So you see how the J. Crew shirts are at 9.2%, and like the Peanuts thing is at 5.3%.
Wow, that's incredible.
So that's showing the average of what all sellers in those categories are using as their promoted listings. That's an average.
That's cool, and it tells you how much discount it is on each individual item.
Yep.
Since most of my stuff has a ridiculous margin, like I can see, oh no, like as an example, let's say on this one, 5 cents is way too much. Then I could adjust it accordingly on that individual one before submitting, which is very cool.
Exactly.
So let's go for it. And you can turn it off at any time?
Yeah, so you can turn the campaign off anytime. You could set a flat rate for all the items if you want and don't want to do a trending. You can do individual ones and adjust them. And then when you're ready, you just hit review.
Okay. I'm just going to go with what it recommends. Start today. Let's run it until next Sunday for our show. And then we'll have an idea.
And you can name your campaign so you can keep them separate.
Let's do this, Luke, Chris, test 1. Start today. We'll run this for a whole week. This is exciting. So it should give us a sponsored hit. That's it, right?
That's it.
All right, let's see. Let's launch this and see what happens. Oh, I need to agree.
Oh, yeah, I have to agree to the terms. To the bottom, there's a checkbox next to launch. You don't have to scroll. It's on like the static bar there. Yeah. You see it?
Or hold on one second. There we go.
Boom.
You've launched it. Your ad should appear within the first hour, within a few hours. So I did 500 promoted listings. So is 500 the max? So you had to run this more than one time?
So if you don't do the bulk, so I'll show you when we're in a second here, I'll share my screen and I will show you how I've done it. I have like 4 or 5 campaigns running right now. So I'll show you kind of what I've been doing.
Okay.
So let me.
I just stopped sharing so we can go to your screen share and check it out.
All right. And I will need to make sure that I lock it, which I'm not sure how you did that. So let me know. What feature did you hit to lock it?
Present to everyone.
Present to everyone. Boom. Okay. We locked now. We're good to go?
Yep.
All right, cool. So let me get off here. All right, so let me go to my promoted listings real quick. Now, so this is what's really cool about like I'm a data guy and I love this. So this is all my campaigns together. And so I had a promoted campaign running for my Ella Bean stuff for almost 2 months now. Like I think it was like almost 2 months. And so I have a lot of history here. That's why there's 47 items sold. But just like, let's think about this for a minute. I paid $104 extra to eBay to sell an additional 47 items. And when I think about that this is reach that's not organic, right? So you're paying for exposure through a channel that's not organic and eBay is going to reward. So I'm accumulating almost $1,000 of extra sales, and I'm paying basically on average 10% to do that.
That's interesting. So I wonder how much longer it would take without the sale.
Right. Well, and I don't know for sure. Right? I don't understand the algorithms. I don't understand how they're positioning it, and I don't think anyone's actually going to know for sure because that's like if they expose that kind of takes. I don't think that would be good business for anyone. But in general, so I'll scroll on here. So see, I have 4 campaigns running. So this is my LL Bean one, and it's like sitting at 15% right now. And so if you click on one, like I'll show you this one, it shows the specific impressions and clicks just for that promotion. So, and what I've done it is I'm starting to, if you see here, I have shirts, sweaters, jackets, then blazers, suits, and jeans. So I have each one set with a different rate that's flat across the board that I'm comfortable with my margin. And we'll get into that when we start talking about tips. But this has been the way that I've found so far is the best to do it is breaking up by store categories. And it's really just testing for me because I'm just not sure what percentages are good for each category. Like you can see the trending, but for instance, like if I know the trending is, let's talk about blazers and suits. I think it's easier. The Ella Bean's interesting because it's a bulk buy, and you can see the clicks too. I mean, look at this. I had a day, the 1st of August, where I got 26,000 clicks on my items through promoted listings. Like think about that.
Wow,
like that's insane. Like that's a lot. And the other thing to think about, if I gain watchers and everything else through that, right? Like that's just continuing to grow the exposure on those items. And I haven't paid a dime unless they actually convert. So I've sold 38 pair through there. And during the same time, because I run promoted listings pretty much in parallel to my bulk order, I've sold over like 250 pair of LL Bean pants. So it's not like I'm every single one getting hit with promoted listing fees. It's just padding it with like an additional 10 or 15% of sales. But let me show the blazers and suits one because I think this is interesting. I just launched this the 16th. So it's that 4 days ago, and I've already sold 7 jeans and blazers. It's actually, I think it's 3 blazers and 4 pair of jeans. I'm pretty sure. And you look at the clicks here, right? Like we got about 7,000. A lot less today, but we're only, we're not technically halfway through the day, about halfway through the day. So, I mean, there's definitely a correlation here, and I don't know why it doesn't show the percentage unless I edit. I'm actually not going to show the percentage, and that's just because I don't want to sway people into a percentage. I want everyone to test it themselves because I think it's really important that you test it. But that's what the analytics looks like, and I think that you can tell a ton from that. I mean, there's the clicks. So these are actual actual clicks on the item. So it must be impressions. So I would misstate that. Sorry. So these are impressions. So 6,800 impressions, which is views. Clicks on the actual item are right here. So that's interesting to think about, actually, too.
This is really interesting because what happens if you just decrease the price 10% instead of giving 10% more to eBay for looks like a massive increase in traffic?
That's something I've been debating in my head, right? Like, and I'm going to stop sharing now. So thinking about it from a customer experience, do you think that your sale price really drives most of your sales? Or do you think that it's so this is really the hypothesis, right? Is do you think your price is the sole determinant of whether a buyer buys something? Or do you think the exposure and the right person finding your listing who's looking for that specific item delivers the sale? Or is it a combination of the two, right? And that's where I think the testing is going to be huge over the next couple of months for everyone, is figuring out what is the right combination of that. Am I conceding it on the price end, or am I conceding it on the margin end, or am I doing both? And this is just like price strategy kind of 101, which I don't understand fully. Like, I'm real green and new to it, but it's very interesting.
This is fascinating to me because product and price are the two things that generate traffic. What do you have and what is the price? And if we're going to pay as a promoted listing, that means we're showing up as a sponsored ad in other kinds of things. So I'm wondering, that's really the critical point, is what search are promoted listings showing up in?
Right.
Is it the identical brand? Is it the same type? I'm really wondering, because normally I've been relying on product and price this entire time.
Right.
I haven't done any paid promotion. So we'll try for a week and see if the conversion is much different. It might be.
Right. And that's, to me, and I just don't know enough about it. Like, I'm always very careful. If I don't know it, I don't want to give the wrong answer. But what I can tell from a pure data perspective, like when I think about my pricing strategy, like, let's just talk about today. So right now I have a 25% off sale running. All right. So if I have an item, let's just stay for round numbers. I have an item for $100 that's selling at 25% off, selling for $75. If I have 0% promoted listings running, no extra exposure to anyone, I sell it for $75. I pay eBay 13% of that. Now, if I give 5% promoted listings and I get, let's say I sell 2 additional pair because of the promoted listings, I pay an extra 5% in final value fees, but I sell $150 of increased sales I never would have realized. It's like, to me, that's worth it every time. Like, if I can sell and increase my sell-through rate and reduce my margin a little bit, but still have it be profitable, like, that's a no-brainer. And then the other one that I've been really toying with, and I don't know, like I said, this is just me really talking out loud, is, so what if I just increase my prices the same amount I wanted to promote my listings? Sorry. So
I love that idea.
Right. So if we think that price elasticity is a range of 10 to $20 on an item, if I was normally going to charge 15 and now I charge 20, but I give 20% to eBay for promoting the listing and I sell 10 times more of them, I'm still coming out with the same net margin. Like, I don't know. It's interesting. And I don't know what the effect will be, right? You kind of have to test it and see, right? Will increasing the price lower my sales? It very well could. I think if I think about like a Ralph Lauren shirt, it's a high commodity. I think they are price sensitive to it, like, I don't know. I don't think anyone has the answer yet, which is why it's such an interesting topic. I will say for sure there's a correlation with using promoted listings and increased sales. I mean, there is, only because we have the analytics in front of us to prove it, right? Like, if we take that example of a Ralph Lauren shirt, let's say the market is like $17 shipped or something on that particular shirt. If we were to run it at $20, but have a $3, what is that? Like a 30%, a massive cut to eBay. So we're saying we'll give 30, or not 30%, 20% is the max you can go, just so FYI. I don't want to mislead
so we give a 20% fee. Does our shirt show up every single time somebody looks for Ralph Lauren? Because eBay wants that 20%, that $4 commission we're going to give them.
Yeah, I mean, and
That's
that's
a
the thing.
huge
I don't
commitment.
know. Yeah, and you got to think about it, with thousands and thousands of sellers. I don't think there's any guarantee that that gets in
Mm,
front of them every time.
mhm,
But if it gets you a couple extra thousand people viewing or clicking it, like, you're going to
mhm,
make more sales. And this is funny because this analytic feature almost comes back to like early internet marketing, right? Like
mhm.
funnels and things like that. It's like it all gets down to views and exposures, and just selling product in general, or even think about Facebook marketing right now, right? Like people who have drop shipping and different things like that, or niching out, it's like they're calculating, if I pay X fee to Facebook to promote this, I get X amount of reach, X amount of views. And if I just convert 2 out of my 10,000 views into sales, it's worth it to me because my margin's X. And I mean, it's almost one of those situations here where we're starting to think about is like, um, if you can make more sales analytically by paying more to eBay, but your margin shrinks a little bit, but you make more money in the long run because you're selling more items. Like, I can definitely see playing around with that. And it is interesting because me and Chris were talking before the show a little bit. Like, summer slowdown's ending, and like Chris's sales are doing really well. My sales are doing really well, and Chris hasn't done promoted listings yet. So it's like, where is the correlation strong? Where is it not? I mean, obviously, we can tell for sure that promoted listings generates new sales because it shows you that they literally clicked on it through the promoted listings feature and converted, which is pretty powerful. Like, I'm really impressed with eBay that they have gone down the data road a little more, because they have stayed way away from it until now. Like, this is the first real big rollout where I was like, man, like when I started doing promoted listings 2 months ago, I was so excited just to have those type of analytics. Like, we haven't had anything like that till now, especially for used items, like used single SKU items now. That's crazy.
One thing that my background is Facebook marketing, at least the last 5 years or so. And we have found, without question, lowering the price of your item is more effective than raising the price of your item and paying Facebook more. But here's the thing, Facebook charges you regardless if you convert or not.
Right.
So this is a totally different ballpark.
Right.
Since Facebook will collect the money, Google will collect the money even if it doesn't click all the way through.
My
So
my question is, my big question, I don't have the answer to it, and maybe someone in the chat does, or I see cases in the chat, maybe he does, is if I run the campaign, let's say I do 20%, I get 30 new watchers on items through it, but they don't convert when they click on it. They watch it for a week.
mm,
And then they convert a week later. Do I pay the ad fee? Do I get charged that ad fee because they watched it through there?
I
Or
mean,
do I just get the benefit of the reach? Because I almost wonder how hard that is for eBay to track, right? Like, I even think about like affiliate links and stuff. Usually there's like a time frame of once they click on it, it stays like whatever the cookies or the things associated with it, they tracks it for like a 24-hour period, and then it's gone.
mm.
So
I also think that it's in eBay's best interest to allow promoted listings for better sellers to be higher. Because if you have a reputation of delivering a good customer experience, why wouldn't
right.
eBay also help you get bigger? Because they already trust you. And
Yeah.
I think that just like every other business, it's the 80-20 rule. So eBay is
Yeah.
going to be focusing its attention on the 20% of largest sellers. It makes sense for them to do that.
Yeah. And my big thing, and the reason I go back to that question I was asked, is if there's a time limit on it, I mean, I would be very tempted to just max out my promoted listings for like a couple weeks and see what happens. Because if you get that much extra exposure and all these watchers off of it, and then like say you do that, you run it at a certain price, you gain all these new watchers, and then the last week of the month you drop and run a sale a lot that's price sensitive, so you drop your price more and you
Mhm.
convert a ton later. You don't get charged the ad fee because it's so far down the road, and you scoop up the extra sales because of the exposure and the sale you ran.
And
Like,
we're talking about also the idea of running a 20% max promoted listing plus your 9% final value fee and
right,
4% for PayPal. You're looking at 35% roughly.
you're looking at Amazon FBA fees, right?
You're
I
looking
mean,
at
that's yeah, that's
that's a third. So you're running at a third goes to eBay. If you know what you're doing, they definitely want that 1/3 of your money.
right. But I would, and this is just all hypothetical because none of us really know. Like, and I don't. I would love to talk to someone who thinks they really know, but I don't know that eBay would ever share that.
No, they're not.
Yeah, I mean I can't see them ever. I mean, it's just like the same thing as a search engine, right? They're not going to expose or share that.
No, and that's also something that they're constantly changing as well. So even if they did share it, it would adjust it to make sure the buyers. And then I would be tempted to promote things like go heavier on items that I have more than one brand. Like if I had 20 Brooks Brothers shirts, for example, maybe I would do the full 20% on that to get people into the store. But actually, I don't know. There's a lot of strategy involved with this guy. So
yeah,
I think you should all be playing with it.
I think this is a good lead into the first tip, Chris, if you good with transition to that.
Okay, go ahead.
So my first tip with promoted listings, and I think it's just everything with eBay, but is you need to start testing a bunch of different things right now. Like don't wait and use your store, start testing different ad rates for a defined period of time, measure it, and then test a different one and measure it and test a different one and measure it. Like the only way you're going to know is to do it yourself and to test it. Like you can listen to us talk all day long, but each person's stores and strategies are slightly different. Each person's merchandise is slightly different. Your portfolio of goods is slightly different. I think it's super, super important that you take the time to test this on your own to figure out what works for your model, right? Like if you're running at a 30% net margin, it might not be so smart to promote your listings really high, right? And you might want to run a low percentage. If you're running at a 70% net margin, it might make a ton of sense to concede that margin and increase your sales. So, I mean, it's really, really important to test and to understand that. I don't know how you feel about that, Chris, after kind of jumping in now.
I feel like you have to be testing. And a side note of our conversation right now is what I see being the biggest effect of this is an artificial raising of the price on eBay overall, because sellers are going to compensate, just like there's no actual free shipping.
Right.
There's no actual free advertising. Someone's paying for it. And in this case, it might be the buyer. It might be the buyer who's paying extra because they see a promoted listing. And that happens 100% of the time when I buy on Amazon and I type something in, there's a promoted listing. Yeah. And someone's paying for that premium spot. And I have to worry as a buyer. I have to read the reviews. I can't just trust Amazon.
Right, because they're incentivized monetarily for it.
Exactly. So
just like an end cap in a brick and mortar retail store. Same concept.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
That's interesting. So I do like that because overall, if you are not using promoted listings at all, you can expect the actual price of everything on eBay to go up. Just like how Amazon is not known as a bargain center, it's known as convenience. They're not selling the cheapest stuff.
Right. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see too how that plays out in each different market as far as the types of items, right? Because the buyer is different for every type of item, and so it'll be really interesting to see how that goes, especially for us that do a lot of clothing.
I 100% agree that we need to test, because try 5%, try 20 for a week, just see what happens. Like what kind of traffic difference are there, and just record all of it in a journal if you guys can.
Yeah. Yeah. And each of those, oh shoot, my computer's about to die. Each of those campaigns I have running are all set at different ad percentages. And I will be changing them. I have it marked in my phone as an alert every week to change them. So, all right, sorry about that. So second tip I have is to, right now, as you start testing, also recalculate and understand what your net margin actually is. One thing, when you start conceding margin, you start conceding additional expenses to eBay, for your final value fees, you have to really think about that on the back end. All of us have probably, for the most part, and this is a generalization, but we've probably developed our business strategy and our business model around the current system without promoted listings, right? We've done it with understanding that there's 9 to 10% final value fees and there's 3% PayPal fees. And so we've said, okay, 13% there plus shipping plus cost of goods, I have my net margin basically. Now with promoted listings, you're adding another expense in that we haven't already calculated and haven't designed around. And maybe your pricing that's existing in the store, you might need to go start adjusting before you start experimenting. So I think that those two have to go hand in hand, and you really need to take the time to evaluate how you've priced so that you don't take a bath, so to speak, when you give up that margin going back.
This is going to bring me to a point that I just want to add to that, which is if you're just getting started, I got some really good advice from some really larger sellers who are saying when you're just starting and you don't know what you're doing or you're just learning, aim for literally 5 times your money, meaning spend $2 and try to net 10. That way you can still make a mistake on 4 of them and break even if you sell 1 of them and buy less things. So don't buy everything that has a margin. Buy less things that have a 5x margin because you're going to make mistakes in the beginning and you don't want to be left with too slim of a margin because then you won't be able to test any of the things we're talking about.
Yeah, that's a really good point because, I mean, that traces it even back to your buying decisions when you're out and about. And yeah, that's just an awesome point all the way around. All right, so third one, and then we will shift to some Q&A. I'm going to make sure. All right. So the trending piece that we saw, I think that's hopefully will end up being one of the most powerful tools available to us as sellers. The fact that you can see eBay-wide for that category of item, what sellers are using as a percentage to promote gives you a distinct advantage, right? Because let's say you have the margin built in, and this is an example. If I saw for jeans, it was running at about 9%. And I did a good enough job sourcing that I had some really big cushion margin, I could jack it up to 15%, go way and above over, and really steal a lot of the viewership in that category, drive a lot of sales, and get my listings above other people. Again, don't know exactly how that works in the algorithm, but I think it's safe to assume that 15% versus 9 will get a greater effect on your items. So I think that trending tool could end up being one of the most powerful things we have when we're using promoted listings and evaluating where to gain a competitive advantage in the marketplace. Where you can, especially if you have like 2 or 3 item types and you have a ton of one, maybe you target that one area to try to get those items promoted more than the other ones in your store. So just just interesting to think about. I think it's definitely a tip that we should be aware of.
This is something that I think is a great point as far as being able to test your market and look at what your competitors are doing. On Amazon, there are a lot of sellers. For example, you're selling a water bottle. You're selling a Swell water bottle, and it's at $17, let's say. And somebody's paying on Amazon, I believe, their promoted listings, they charge you even if they don't convert. And so what'll happen is if they're promoting a water bottle for $17 and it's the first listing, but below that there's one for $15, you're still not going to buy the promoted one if it's identical, even though they have premium exposure. And your competition is sort of getting destroyed because they're paying for that spot and not converting,
right?
Because yours is still cheaper. And so you're burning their pockets by not allowing their ad to convert. In this case, since it only charges you, it sort of made it nice. It kind of reduces the race to the bottom.
Yeah,
because
instead of having to spread your promoted cost to the cost of every good you have listed, right, as like a running burn rate, you're basically able to say, all right, I know what I'm paying if it sells. And if it doesn't, I'm okay. I mean, it's taking a flat fixed expense out of your business is what it's doing. It's making it variable to your sales, which is what you ideally would want. So
and if you can look in your category and see, let's say I'm researching and Luke's running a 20%, the average in our category is, let's say 10%. And so I know if we charging the same amount, this is so interesting. I could just discount my item 10%. And if we're competing against the same customer, we are paying the same fees. So if it's a 10% and I'm selling mine for 20 free shipping and Luke is charging 22 free shipping, net to the seller is the same because he's paying a 10% fee to eBay for premium exposure. So this is a reason why I think potentially, since my prices are already competitive, I haven't noticed a decrease since promoted listings came out. People aren't necessarily outselling me because of it. I might be missing more deals, but it also could be seasonality.
Yeah. Oh, that's a very good point. Michelle answered one of our questions, and I'm really happy that she did. I haven't verified it, but I'm just trusting what Michelle is saying. She's saying you only pay an ad fee when an item sells within 30 days of a click on your ad in one of the designated placements reserved for promoted listings. So basically, my little hack idea won't work. So thank you, Michelle, for not wasting my time on that. I appreciate it. So basically, 30 days if they click on it. So that's cool. That's how it should be, right? To avoid stuff like I just brought up. But if it was there, you know that people would be pushing the limits on that. So thank you, Michelle, for sharing that. I really appreciate it. You want to jump into some Q&A, or no, you got something else?
No, let's jump into the Q&A. But Robin had made a point that he said that he's in the TV business and people pay for impressions. And in this case, you only pay for the impressions that convert. So right. It's a little bit different than the TV business, where you pay and pray that your TV ad converts as an advertiser.
Right. Well, and that's where, this is a whole different show topic, but just advertising in general, right? Like, it's hard to even measure what the impression of those ads are, because you don't know if any of them led directly to a sale. There's no way to measure that. This is a case where you can track exactly if it led to a sale, and you don't have to pay until it's done, which is just crazy. But yeah, let's see if we got any questions here. I'm going to scroll up. Now's the best time, guys. Drop them in the chat. Just put question and then, or just make it bold, whatever, so we can see it. I'm going to scroll up and see what I can find here.
One more thing with this is that with Amazon, you could pay for a certain amount of impressions, basically, and run them different times of the day. You could be a little more you could go in there and tweak when your ads run, how often people see them, and you could spend as much as you want. Versus on eBay, it's not really as much as you want. They are going to be selective as well on their end, because they don't want to show it to people when it doesn't convert either, which is so different than Amazon, because who will spend 100% of your budget because you gave it to them? So will Google and Facebook.
Right.
You put $100 budget, they will find a way to spend all 100 of it.
Right, yeah, they're not going to leave any money left over for you.
They're not going to leave any money. But eBay is not going to do that if it doesn't. They're not going to show your ad 10 times. If nobody clicks on it, they're going to stop showing it.
That's true. Well, there's an interesting point here. I just scrolled up, and Casey had asked a question earlier. I'm not sure if he's still in the chat or not, but it says, do we know if a higher rate actually puts us above other people who are lower percentage? Because isn't promoted targeting the people based on search history rather than percent? And I have to believe that if you have a higher ad percent, it's going to give you an advantage in positioning. If it didn't, then it's pointless, right? Because then it's just like, well, I'll just do 1% all day long, and if my stuff's better, I'll be higher. Like, I don't know. Like, there has to be some give and take there. Otherwise, what's the point? Right? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but what do you think, Chris?
I think it's the same thing as the bidding system for every other platform. Whoever has the highest bid has the premium exposure. And I don't know if this is a good question in the chat. If the promoted fee applies to the shipping fees, I'm gonna guess it does.
Yeah, I'm guessing, and Casey's in the chat, and I know he knows quite a bit about this. Maybe if he can answer if that does. I'm assuming it works the same way as the final value fee, because the final value fee includes that. So I'm assuming it works one for one that way. And Casey just super chatted $3 to us, so I really appreciate that, Casey. And yes, Casey did. He super chatted me twice the other night. Might have been a little tipsy, he said.
That's the way to do it.
That's the way to do it.
Sometimes when we're dealing with this, it's good to have a drink, because it's kind of complicated and sometimes stressful. So,
yeah, this is, and just keep in mind too, I just want to re-preface, like, neither Chris or I actually know what's the best right now. We're still testing. Like, Chris just did his first promoted campaign. I've only been doing it for like a week. So, we're just trying to figure it out and share with you as we're trying to figure it out, and kind of try to talk halfway intelligently through it as we figure it out. So.
And just one general purpose comment on that, like, there are no experts. People who are really good at eBay, I just have a habit of testing the most to whatever fits their category. You may be in a category where promoted doesn't matter. If you're selling items that there's one of on earth, no matter how you do it, someone will find it because it's so rare. And if you're in a very ultra competitive market, there's 1,000 people selling the same thing. They're all identical new toothbrushes. Then you may need free shipping, 20% promoted listing. You may need to have multiple warehouses in the US so people can get it in 2 days. You may need every single advantage to move that toothbrush. But, you know, it just depends on your category.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it looks like there's some good feedback here. So Michelle said, in addition to looking at the seller's ad rate, other factors are also considered, such as relevancy and how well an item is selling at the time the ad rate is set. So, and that's a really good point, because I would think about, so if we both had 5% set, the buyer's searching Ralph Lauren dress shirt, and we each have one up. If I'm consistently a top-rated seller, I'm delivering, have a higher feedback rating, my ship time's faster, all those things that eBay values, my 5% definitely is going to go further and have me higher in the engine. Just like, and I almost think about that more as like just a general algorithm, right? Like they say they're going to reward buyers who offer 60-day returns and all these different things, and it's like it's the same thing. Like all those factors do factor in. And Casey's saying the buyer who searches for an item only sees the items they're looking for, right? So relevancy matters a ton. I totally agree on that. Relevancy matters a ton. But like, I'm just trying to break it down to like the building blocks. So a pink striped classic fit Oxford Ralph Lauren dress shirt, right? All those subcategories, those key item descriptions. If a buyer is looking for one of those and I'm at 10% and Chris is at 5%, I have to believe and trust that mine will be higher, unless I am a poorly rated seller or anything like that. If we had identical item with those descriptions, 10% must be rewarded higher than 5%, unless like I have a huge defect rate or tons of bad feedback or my handling time's twice as long. I truly have to believe that's the way it works.
There's a comment from Jonathan Keeney, or question saying if people start to raise their prices, like, all these ads are, in my opinion, going to raise the price of everything on eBay. Why you might as well buy on Amazon because of Prime shipping. And I think eBay is trying to combat that with guaranteed. A lot of us have opted into that program to see if we can get stuff to people quick. I think eBay should have tried something to try like merchant fulfilled 2-day handling, because I know Amazon has merchant fulfilled Prime, but they basically came out with a shipping system that's not as good as Prime. And I don't know why you would launch something that's already, to try to at least match what they're doing. It's interesting that they've gone this complicated guaranteed shipping thing, which as a consumer, I don't understand what it means. Versus Prime is so easy to understand.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how it works, like how it's received from the buyer's end. I'll be interested. I mean, and I think the one thing that eBay will do well is they'll adjust as they go, right? They're going to get feedback from their buyers, and they're going to know, and they're going to have to adjust as they go. So we'll see. I see a couple. So Michelle said promoted listings from sellers with different ad rates may appear in different page locations. Right. Yeah, that would make sense.
I promoted. Well, go ahead. Here's a thing on with Casey. You actually cannot promote an auction, or I don't know how. I don't think you can. Can you actually promote an auction? Because it wasn't available when I was trying to do it. Now they're promoted, but I just relisted the Apple shoes yesterday, and I just ran a promotion on every single one of my items. But I don't think you can run a promoted listing on an auction. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have the answer to that, unfortunately.
I don't know.
I see a couple questions about so we should just max out the promotion percentage. I think that's a definitive no. I wouldn't do that. I would test different ad rates. I mean, if the trending rate for dress pants is 9.2%, I mean, I don't think you need to charge 20% to gain a competitive advantage. I also would say that it depends on your margin. Like, what is your existing margin? You don't want to kill any profit to be made by jacking up your promoted listings. So just keep that in mind.
And we're talking about 20% off the top.
Right.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's huge.
That's a big cut. The highest I'll be transparent. The highest I have running right now is 15% for my LOB order. And that's because they have such a healthy margin built in that I'm able to do that. I got 2,000 of those things to move, so I'm okay giving up some margin. Versus my other ones are all between like 5 and 10-ish%.
This is a great question from Thrifty Nickel that I do not know the answer to. if you're running a promoted listing and somebody buys something else in your store, you have to pay a fee? I would say no, but I don't know.
I believe it's linked. It should be linked to click conversion. So converting on that specific item that you agreed to pay on. If they buy another item that's not promoted, I don't think they can charge you for that. So I'm 95% sure that's a no. That's like, because that's the other added benefit to this. And I think Casey referenced it earlier, was just running the sale also gets traffic to other items that aren't promoted in your store, right? That's an added benefit that you don't have to pay on regardless. So even if you're not getting conversions, you still might be getting conversions on things that aren't being promoted, which again goes back to definitely test. Michelle just said again. Michelle's dropping awesome stuff. Thank you, Michelle, for looking all this up. We really appreciate it. It says sellers can promote fixed price, multi-quantity, and single quantity listings for all categories except motors, fitment. Auctions and auction buy it now listings are not eligible at this time. So there we go, straight away there. It's crystal clear as it can be. I don't really do auctions except on ties. And I don't care about promoting them. So, okay. Any other questions, guys? I think we got about 10 minutes left or so, and we're gonna wrap up. Michelle says she's a cut and paste master. Well, we appreciate it. I'm personally, because how do you feel about this? Like, I'm super excited. Like, I'm really pumped that eBay has allowed some analytic capability to sellers right now. I think it's just amazing. But how are your feelings about it now that you've kicked one off?
Well, this is interesting. And back just to the concept of the Apple shoes, which I just put on there, do whatever everyone else is doing as my option, right? I didn't set a rate. I just said whatever eBay, the average rate is, and it just put it up for 5%. So that's interesting. So just the category of sneakers, it looks like right now we're in the testing phase, and not everyone, but the average in the category is 5% for shoes, which makes sense. That means people are just testing the water. But you're essentially, if you do, let's say 9%, you're doubling your final value fee.
Right. Oh yeah.
So,
well,
now you're in that.
And 5% makes sense to me for shoes because there are so many new shoes being sold, right? And the margins are thinner, so they can't sacrifice as much there. Like that makes sense.
That makes sense. So I'm gonna leave it at 5% because that's the normal rate.
And I see someone just saying they're concerned about if everyone starts doing it, then their promotions won't even show up. And I mean, I think that's a valid concern. I mean, the reality is when Markdown Manager came out, not everyone ran sales, and then more people ran sales, and then sales became a standard. And then if you didn't have a sale, then you weren't competing with other people. And so like that became a saturated way to market. Now we have a new one in our hands and everyone's unsure of it. And so there's going to be that period of time where you can really, really take advantage of it and it can benefit your business. And then it's going to come to a point where everyone's going to kind of understand it and it's going to the market will correct itself. And so it's like, that's why I encourage everyone now to test it and squeeze what you can out of it before that happens. I mean, it's just like everything else. It will normalize. I think the one thing that is nice is your business model can give you a competitive advantage in how you do promoted listings based on what you sell, how you source it, what you buy it at. I mean, that you have so much control over those things that I think that you can really, even when it becomes saturated with people using it, I still think it'll benefit you.
Let's see.
Yes, you need a store to do promoted listings, Alex.
I don't know, Luke. I'm just going to ask you a question. eBay itself is in the fee business,
right?
And this increases the amount they charge for fees. It totally makes sense.
Yeah.
So I see it being a huge mistake not to test promoted listings, is my point. It's a huge mistake not to test it. Because if they're going to make more, they're obviously, they just launched this instead of like adding custom SKU on mobile, which 90,000 million people want. So they're obviously focused on making more revenue, which makes sense as a company.
Yeah. Sorry about the squeaking. Thor has a new ball, and he's really excited about it, if you can't tell. So someone has asked, do you think promoted listings is worth it with only 350 items in their store? So I think that it becomes less about how many items you have and about how much margin you have to give. I think this is completely 100% a margin conversation.
Absolutely.
I don't think it has not. I don't think it has to do with the size of your store, even the types of items you sell. It has to do with what type of margin do you have to play with. And when I say margin, I mean after you take out fees, shipping, and the cost that you paid for the item, how much money are you putting in your pocket, and how much are you willing to give up to sell that item more frequently and faster? Like that's the whole conversation that we're having right now. And everyone, that's different for everyone, which is crazy, right? It's different for everyone. Which is why I strongly encourage you to reevaluate your business model and what that bottom line is for you on each item, and then start testing your promoted listings around that so that you continue to make money and don't, undercut your own self.
One thing I will mention on this non-paying bidder thing, I'm actually going to eBay headquarters again on Tuesday, but the last time I went there, they were very concerned about it because there's other platforms that automatically charge you when the best offer is accepted or the auction ends. You're automatically charged. There is no like period for people to pay. Like you only bid if you're ready to pay.
Right.
And that seemed like a massive, like whenever we asked about other topics, they would say that's on that's on our list of things to work on. But then when we mentioned dealing with non-paying bidders, they're like, we're working on that right now. So that was a very straightforward, like, it's a lose-lose for the whole platform when people don't pay because they don't get their fees either.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's no way that it can't be on the radar. It's just a matter of it's not one of those ones where you just pull the rug out either, right? Like
that's right.
When you have buyers who have bought on eBay for 15 or 20 years, you can't just rip that carpet out. Like that, they will cause a ripple, and I think they know that, and that's why they're taking so much time to address it.
And I get so many unpaid items closed on Friday. So I don't know if people just need to wait to payday. So it's just like a thing.
Yeah. When I have buyers all the time, we'll be like, hey, I'll accept the offer. Like, thank you for accepting my offer. Is it okay if I pay on X date? I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, that's fine.
Yep.
And usually they always do, which is interesting. It's the ones who aren't responsive that I always issues with. And I just want to say shout out kind of to Robin here, Robin Marshall in the chat. She obviously has a very strong advertising background, and I think a lot of the points she's making are really, really true and on point. And she just said, you better believe eBay is watching the metrics as well. It's basically an ad model for sellers, and she's dead on, right? Like, I don't know. I appreciate when people can share their perspective when they're an expert in that field, and so I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, I think overall, every single one of us should at least try. And you guys saw it. It only took me 5 minutes to try one earlier on this call, and I'd never done one before. So it's just one of those things where like you have to learn how to crawl first, launch one, look at the results. And I would say, Luke, maybe you can answer this too. How long should someone run a promoted listing before they call that an attempt? Like, don't change it every day.
No, I mean, I'm running mine for a week at a time, and then I'm rotating the percentage by category. And I'm just going to try to measure the amount of sales, because I think right now, I feel like we're just about out of that summer slowdown. I mean, things are definitely going to ramp up naturally, but because you literally get to track whether it converted in your promoted listings. Oh, sorry. Been a long weekend. But because you can track whether it actually converted, you don't have to worry about wondering if it converted. It's right there for you. So you can just track it for a week. Hey, I converted 7 at this percentage. Next week I converted 12 at this percentage. This week I converted 4 when I wrote it. Like, you can start to see and draw those correlations. And the only way to do it is to test it for a long period of time. It's not like in a month you're going to be like, all right, I know my strategy now. Like, it's going to take quite a while.
Yeah. So, and one other thing that I'm going to do that hopefully you guys can just maybe model after. When I went to eBay, they said that top sellers schedule in their schedule time to work on their listings. So for me, I'm going to set a reminder in my phone to work on promoted listings on Sundays. I'm going to run my stuff for a week before I make too many changes, and just run it for a week to see if it works. And every single Sunday I'll work on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello.
Girlfriend's in the house. So do we have any other questions?
Yeah, and before we stop here, we have 85 watching live. I just want to thank everyone for taking the time and to learn with us and kind of share, because this was definitely more of a learning episode than some of our other ones where they're direct tips. And I appreciate people's willingness to be interactive with us, because we are all in this together. There's no doubt about it.
Everyone, make sure you hit the like button as well, and it just helps everyone find this video, and hopefully this was as useful for you guys as it is for us. Again, I think we get more out of these videos sometimes than the viewers, for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely on that one. All right, well, if we don't have any more questions, I think this is a good spot to pause and wrap up, Chris. We still owe everyone a video on coupons, setting up redemption coupons. We haven't forgot about it. We just promoted listings was a much hotter topic for us, and I think it was going to be more impactful on our businesses right away. So that's why we went with this one.
Absolutely. And I think as a homework thing, Luke and I will look into business cards this week, because we should get those, and that should be a priority for us to get that into the mail with our items to get people back in our store, since we both sell a specific category.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, there's definitely upside with the coupons for sure. I just need to figure out what the best way to implement it is. So we will start testing for sure. We'll be back next week on Chris's channel, 10K on the Bay, and Chris will also launch this for his audience that might not catch it tonight. He will launch it at noon tomorrow as a rewatch if you want to check it out there as well. Hit that like button on the way out. Please go subscribe to Chris's channel, 10K on the Bay, and check me out on Instagram, Endless Entrepreneurs, and Instagram, 10K on the Bay for Chris. Have an awesome night, guys. Really appreciate you stopping in.
Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.